Hi guys, welcome to the No Bullshit Gymcast podcast and my special guest Tobias Young with TNT Fit Pro Coaching. Also, this guy is an IFBB Pro. Now, Tobias, welcome to the
Thanks.
podcast.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate you having me, man. Good stuff.
Cool, bud. Um, I know a little bit about you. We've spoken before about some other stuff, but for the guys and girls out there listening to this, I'd like a little bit of an intro about yourself and a little bit of your background. What made you become and decide to become a IFBB pro?
Yes. So I guess we can kind of rewind the tape way back to when I was a kid because it all starts from there. I think a lot of us, who go that route have some kind of, childhood trauma or something that happens to us that makes us like just go crazy. So with me, I grew up without a dad. I didn't have a dad growing up. It was just me and my mom. We were poor. We moved around a lot to a lot of different places. I was always going to different elementary schools, having to, meet new friends. And I needed a father figure in my life. I didn't have one. So at the age of 10, my mom got me a big brother from the Big Brothers program. It was one of the best things that changed my life. I had a lot of friends that went the wrong direction, and he helped keep me on track going the right direction. And when I turned 12, he actually got me my first gym membership. It was my birthday present. He paid for a whole year of a
Wow.
gym membership for me, got me some personal training sessions to help me kind of get started. And Chris, I fell in love with it, man. I dove in. I always admired, strong physiques, and I always wanted to have that male role model as I was talking about. I used to watch the show The Incredible Hulk with Lou Ferrigno back in the day. That kind
I
of
think we
dates me.
all
I'm
did,
like,
mate. I think we're showing our age.
yeah,
Some of us might have a little bit more hair, but
yeah.
mate, those programs when he was on there, that was amazing back in the day. Don't make it like that
Yeah.
nowadays, do they?
No, dude. So yeah, I mean, I used to run around the apartment, and I used to have this one shirt that was like I would rip off and flex and act like I was the Hulk, and I would ask my mom, "Don't make me mad. Like you don't want to see me green, turn green, do you?" Like I was like half serious, but half kind of like in my own head, like turning into the Hulk.
Oh,
And
that's
she would kind of
classic.
laugh at me, and then eventually I kind of had that as something that I wanted to go to. I'd watch the Conan the Destroyer, Conan the Barbarian movies with Arnold and so forth. And I was like, oh my God, like I couldn't believe that type of physique was attainable. And so, as I started to continue to work out, at my young age, getting into my teens, I started to develop, and I got into sports. It helped me with sports performance. So I did a lot of sports. I did, started with soccer and baseball and got into wrestling, and then, football and jujitsu and a lot of cool things, boxing in there. And it gave me the confidence more than anything. It gave me the confidence to feel like, you know what, I can do this. Because I got bullied a little bit. I think every kid who goes to new schools, especially when you're doing it more frequently than other kids, you go in there and you don't know anybody, and it's the middle of the school year, and it's like, hey, let's pick on the new kid, and it's never fun. And so you want to have that confidence to be able to defend yourself and so forth. And so working out, helped me develop that confidence. And then, as I continued to take it, I just never stopped working out. Into high school, a lot of my friends would go out drinking and partying. And yeah, I did a little bit of that, but then I was like, no, that's going to ruin my workout. I stopped doing all that. I just focused on my gym, my working out, and continued to develop my physique. And then eventually I got into doing personal training back in 1999. Started doing personal training at 24 Hour Fitness in Chula Vista, which is south of San Diego. Got into that within 3 months of even doing it. I set the whole record for the whole club. And then, before you know it, I got promoted into managing gyms. And then I started competing. So I competed from 2002 all the way up into 2017. And I was a sponsored athlete with Optimum Nutrition for 12 years. So I did all the optimum nutrition events like the Olympias, the Arnold Classics, and all the different bodybuilding.com events and so forth. So I had a lot of fun, met a lot of really cool people, traveled to some really cool places, had a lot of fun. And like literally how it kind of started. And, initially I didn't want to get into personal training because I was thinking, I was so passionate about working out, about nutrition. I used to read every single muscle magazine that you can even imagine. But then I was like, you know what? Like, it, I need to get back in the groove, and I wanted to do something that I love to do. I was working at a bank part time, and I was selling door to door home security system. I'm like, this is bullshit. I need to do something that I loved, and so I went into personal training. I fell in love with it. Did some really cool things in the whole gym industry, and that kind of led me to where I'm at today, helping coaches with their business. So
Yeah, so you've got TNT Fit Pro coaching. Guys, Tobias and I have spoken about doing business together and him coaching me in the past. And at the time, it just wasn't right. And it's still not right at the moment. I just want to delve into this world a little bit more. I'm really enjoying my podcast side of things. But Tobias, give the guys and girls a little bit into that. So it's not like the major topics I want to talk about, but just give them a little idea of what you do with your clients on that aspect.
absolutely. So, so many coaches, are great trainers in person and do amazing things, but they get burnt out. You get burnt out from training long days at the gym. And I did it too. I used to train for long hours. I used to manage gyms and train clients. And by the end of the day, I just wanted to veg out. And on my off days, I literally wanted to sit on the couch for a day to just kind of like rejuvenate my brain because I
Mm.
was so into my training and so forth. And then I was also competing and dieting and doing all that other crap. But as far as that, there's so many coaches out there that want to have the online component, so that way they can help more people and target the type of clients that they love to be able to help, but then also be able to create all the other components, that sometimes are kind of hard to do just with your in-person, time. And then it's a scalable product. So literally, it's not like in person where you only have so many hours of the day. You build out systems and strategies, and it's a scalable system, so you can take the business as big as you want. So I literally help coaches install the lead gen, the marketing, the sales process, create the offer, the back end delivery, and then create systems and automations to scale, and then even plug in a team to help you do even more things, just depending upon how far they want to take it.
That's
But that's
cool.
it in a nutshell. Yeah.
That's cool. I really appreciate you just telling everyone about that. So, guys, if you are a PT looking to go online, or if you're an online coach who is struggling, this guy, honestly, just trust me. When I say look him up, look him up. His details will be in the comments below and all the above once it's up on YouTube. But going back to the bodybuilding, when did you obviously in America, it's a little bit different. And I know a lot of people now in modern era, where unlike back in our day, where it was very, very hard to get a pro card. What year did you turn pro? And how easy was it at the time to get a pro card?
Yeah, great question. So, like I said, I started competing in 2002, and I didn't turn pro until 2015. So I'd been doing it for many years. And this is all with plenty of years of working out and training and nutrition, all before I even started to compete. So it took me a very long time. Initially, Chris, I was doing bodybuilding. I was just because that was my passion. My legs were one of my strong points and had some cool striations, and the hamstrings got really separated and so forth. And but I just didn't have the mass and the bulk of being able to turn pro as a bodybuilder, and nor did I really want to go that route as well. So I took it as far as I could where I wanted to, as far as that. And then I switched to men's physique because I still wanted to go pro. I still wanted to, compete and be able to, build my physique, but I didn't want it to be so blown up where it was uncomfortable and unhealthy. So got a, pretty decent physique. And then I turned pro in 2015. And so it's one of those things that I'll never forget. It's one of my life achievements that I hang on a plaque in that too.
Yeah,
So
well, anyone like back in the day, it's like I had this discussion with someone well on another podcast that I recorded last week. My old coach, my old judge, He was a head of a federation here in the UK, well, WABA, which is World Amateur Bodybuilding Association. You've probably heard of them. Um, we were talking about how hard it was to get your pro card back in the day in comparison to now, where it's like, I think from literally from when COVID kicked in to now, there's plenty of opportunities per year to get a pro card. It's sort of
Yeah.
turning the sport from something very elitist and like semi underground into the most bums on seats, common sort of like anyone can do it. And then when everyone can do it, it sort of degrades the sport. I think that's my personal
Yeah.
opinion of it.
Yeah.
You're a pro. I'm not. I can only say from my perspective, I've judged enough pros, and I just think the standards now is very much the same. No one really stands out, and it's literally luck of the draw on the day. But they're handing out multiple cards per year.
Yeah. Yeah, it used to be like, oh, you would know every single person that turned pro. You'd be like, oh, this guy turned pro. And then you'd meet that person. I would be like, oh my God, this is an IFBB pro. That's insane. And yeah, now it's gotten to that thing where I don't even know all the different, pros that are out. They're just popping up in the woodworks in there too. And it definitely used to be a lot more challenging. The bodybuilding shows used to be a lot bigger back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Like as far as bodybuilding, there used to be stacked classes, and then now it's kind of gone down a little bit from what I've seen. Not to take anything away from anybody that competes now, because there's plenty of super high level people,
Oh,
high level competitors. Like,
yeah, understandably. Understandably.
mhm,
I'm not trying to degrade what these guys have achieved, but as in standards, I feel the standards back in the day have gone this way a little
mhm.
bit from back in the day. And
Yeah,
like it's like I say, it's more accessible. PEDs are striving forward on every front.
yeah,
Even to your average gym goer, as I was saying to my guest Paul Meldrum the other day for our podcast part one on PEDs, is it's easier to walk into a gym nowadays and spot who isn't on gear than it is who's on gear. You know what I mean? It's
yeah. That's
like
funny.
where's the
Yeah,
rarity? It's the jungle. Oh right, yeah, gear, natty, proper natty.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So, what's your opinion on of this nowadays in the world of bodybuilding, i.e., within the gym industry as well? Obviously, you teach a lot of coaches who you probably speak to about their clients, etc., etc. You've probably still got clients on your own books as well, probably. So, do you still have that interaction with your clients and your clients, shall we say, with these problems of modern era of the gym society?
Yeah, I mean, I still have clients, luckily, like online that have been with me for over 10 years. I've got, a couple clients that have been with me like 12 and 14 years as well. And so they've made that whole transition. They used to just be, regular Joe Schmoes, and then they actually got into competing themselves. And now a couple of them have actually turned into online coaches that are personal trainers that compete. It's like they're going through the whole cycle. It's like beauty. But as far as the PEDs, yeah, now it's a lot more relevant. I remember back in the day, you can just like literally spot somebody that was. You're like, oh, dude, you can tell that this guy is. And like 95% of everybody else was natural. When now it's like you were saying, it's like, yeah, it's mix and match. You see a bunch of people at the gym and you're like, you know, 30% of them are probably taking something to some extent, you know what I mean, in there too.
Uh,
So it's definitely been a lot more prevalent than it was in the past.
yeah. So, do you feel that's sort of degrading the sport a little bit because of it was the sort of genetic freaks, the Ronnies, and the Iris Kyle, for instance, speaking on the women's side of it? Do you think that's brought the sport down a little bit from those days to now where it's like it's the most common? Anyone can do it at any point.
Um, That's a tough question. I think back in the day, there was a lot more symmetry. I'm a big symmetry guy. So, the Flex Wheelers, the Sean Rays, that's the type of physique that I love, where like they're plenty of size, but it's like the size
Mhm.
isn't. it's not the size game where now these guys you see and it's just like they're just enormous and you're like they don't even look as good to me, when they're just like just
Well,
super juiced out of their mind, and it's more size than like symmetry in there. So I prefer the flip side if we were to kind of rewind it back to the
so
like the 90s in there.
obviously, you're a physique pro. Okay. Obviously, we'll drop a couple of names in there. Like Ryan Terry, for instance. I'm sure you've probably met him. I believe at some point he was on the ON team at some point, if I'm right,
Mhm.
back in the day. Um,
Yep.
do you feel now, even in men's physique, at a high level, Olympia level, that it's going the way of a mass monster of that category?
It is. It's like now you see a lot of guys that look like bodybuilders with shorts on, like straight bodybuilders. And I'm like, whoa, because there's been a huge transition with men's physique. So when it first came, it was too soft. I was too big when I first switched to men's physique, and I wasn't even a big
Wow.
dude, but they were like,
I've seen
you
some
got too much
photos of you
muscle.
and like you've got an epic physique. And if they're saying you're too big back then, wow.
Yeah, that was back in the day when I made the switch, and they were like, "You gotta stop training. You gotta just like focus on cardio." And I was like, "Screw that!" Like and then I went back to bodybuilding because I didn't want to hear that shit. I was like, "I love working out, and if you're gonna like, tell me like not to work out to like place higher and just like go in there, like, initially there was that little stage where it was kind of like just having an abs and six pack, and I had some friends that turned pro, back in the day, in there too, and I was like, how did they place higher when like they don't even have much muscle tone in there? And then it slowly started making the switch. It started to switch back, whereas
Mm,
like every year there was like a little bit more muscle they would
mm.
allow, and it was like the guys that started to have the bigger physique started to win the shows, and I was like, oh shit. So that's when I made that switch back to men's physique again from bodybuilding again. And then I turned pro, I think the second year that I got back into it. And so,
You must have turned pro the year that Jeremy Bandera was like winning the Olympia then. Or
he's actually from out here in well, near me in Sacramento. So I'm just trying to think if when yeah, he was in the Olympias doing all that stuff back
yeah,
then. Yeah, for
yeah. So
sure.
that's when they started to go a little bit bigger, wasn't it? Because
Yeah, yep. It made that
he,
transition in there.
I
And I
know
was
he
like,
made his
damn,
comeback last year, and like he was tiny.
really? Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan Terry, like from the back, just ate him up.
Just blew him away. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Jeremy, when he wants to, dude, he has some killer size too. But I think he is maybe, doing some, trying some different approaches and stuff in there too.
Cool.
So, yeah, it's
Cool.
fun.
So, what's your insight to the dedication side of it? You're pro, right? I just want to give the viewers and the listeners to this a real insight depth to becoming a pro, because I think a lot of people, like I say today, I'm not trying to degrade what people do. Okay. It's like you've got your average Joe clients, you've gone from gym pop to getting seriously into training, competing, becoming coaches, so on and so on, right? But what's your aspect of it? What made you drive to be a pro? What was it?
Man, I had always dreamed about becoming a pro. It was just one of those things that was like on my bucket list. It was like get on the cover of a magazine.
Right?
That was like one of my things because I would go through all the magazines, and then as I started to compete and go in there, I wanted to make it a reality. And then, I did a photo shoot. One of my first big photo shoots was with Bill Comstock, and he was one of the big photographers at the time. And he's like, "You have the potential to, get on the covers of magazines." I was like, "What? Are you kidding me?" And then we did this big shoot for Flex magazine. Then I did a big shoot with Alex Ardenti, and we got two Muscle Mag covers out of that one photo shoot, plus a ton of spreads and stuff. And I was like, damn, I was just like, I can't believe it. And then I ended up getting on, the cover of 7 magazines over my,
Yeah, yeah.
back in the day. So
That's awesome,
what's
man.
that?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So obviously it takes dedication, right? Okay.
Yes.
What advice to the younger listeners, like for instance, my editor? He's only 18, but he's a damn good editor. Um, he started his prep 2 days ago with his coach. But I know he listens to all of this and gets really interested in it. What advice from a pro would you give to a young person of today's society now? What advice or three things you'd really go focusing on this?
Yeah. I mean, you kind of have to shut off some of the world. I gave up so many sacrifices, and this is what you have to do to be great. Well, not necessarily that you have to, but it definitely helps. So, my wife is Mexican, and all her family likes to do these Mexican, parties on weekends during the summertime and all this
Nice.
stuff. And I would literally go and smell all this wonderful food. And I would go with my meal prep container and eat cold chicken and broccoli. Like, I made that sacrifice, and everybody would be like, "Oh, you can have a little bit, just have it." And I'll be like, "No, like, stop, get away from me, man." It started to, irritate me after a while because they would all just come up, and you have to have those blinders where you only have your vision of like, hey, just 7 more weeks, just 6 more weeks. You can put up with it. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Same thing with cardio. I was doing 2 monster sessions per day to just get shredded, right? And then, you know, there was times when I was on like negative sleep, right? I was, a dad, I was a husband, I was an optimum athlete, I was, running multiple gyms, I was doing my own prep before work, doing my weight training session, during my lunch break, and then after work, I would stay and get another cardio session in, then have to put on my smiley happy face. And I was like, oh, plus jamming so much caffeine on just to kind of keep your body awake, right? I was just like, oh, then that makes it
Pre-workout.
hard to sleep. Then you don't sleep at night. It's just like it's a revolving cycle. You have to be so focused that nothing else can kind of get in the way of you getting into that goal. Because as soon as you start to think, okay, one bite is going to be fine. Oh, I can just make up for it later and do all this stuff. As soon as you start going that rabbit hole, it opens up another door and another door and another door. You have to be able to just shut that off. That was one of the things that I had was just a relentless dedication to just put my blinders on and just freaking go to work. And that was what I would do. And I would have to do that. And that's why I did well. There was plenty of other guys, Chris, that had better physiques than me. There's plenty of other guys that had better genetics than me. I just outworked a lot of people. So that, to be completely transparent, and that's what helped me level up ahead of a lot of these people.
That's cool, man. That's really cool. Do you feel like now you're a bit of a pre Phil Heath with that whole line there that I just outworked everyone with Mr.
Well,
Heath saying outworked everyone.
I'm not saying I outworked everybody. There's plenty of guys that outworked me, I'm sure. But I mean, there was times when I was doing 4 workouts a day because I was doing my 2 cardio sessions and my 2 weight training sessions. I was meal prepping, so I was eating every 2.5 hours, like literally on the 2.5 hour. My body knew it. I like literally ate. I didn't miss a cardio session. I didn't miss a workout. I didn't let distractions get in my way, Chris. I was just so laser focused.
Mm.
And I'm sure there's probably other guys that did 5 hour workouts, and I'm not going to do that. I mean, I was smart about it too, because I know if you do too much, then your cortisol levels escalate and it has a negative side effect, right? So I was like as smart as I could with just like maximizing my efficiency with
Just
every
finding
ounce of
that
energy that
fine
I had.
balance with it, isn't it? It's very hard at times. Um, do you feel your sacrifices though with the modern way of life now? Do you feel it's harder for people to do those sacrifices from any point? And I mean any point, from a bog standard gym goer all the way up to, turning pro.
Is it harder now?
Yeah.
In which way?
In the aspect, do you feel that people's determination, accountability, mindset, self belief is lacking in all of that area from both sexes here? I'm not just talking about one sex here, but as in people generally. It's a lot of people would rather try to find the easier way out of to make life a lot easier.
Yeah, I think that's just naturally one of the things that happens. Everybody wants easy. That's why there's so much easy remotes, easy food, easy access to this and that. like back when there wasn't an easy button, like it was work. And I think a lot of the competitors from back in the day had also insane work ethics. Not to say people don't today, there's plenty that do, but I think a lot of people rely extra on PEDs to get them to where they want to be, as opposed to the work ethic and the blood, sweat, and tears in there. So there's got to be a fine line in there.
Cool, cool. I'm liking all of this so far. So, i.e., we'll go on to a little bit of business within this, obviously, because a lot of people nowadays are thinking about doing a competition, doesn't matter at what level, and then suddenly, for instance, oh yeah, I've come whatever top five, say for instance, suddenly, oh yeah, their Instagram handles like I've come top five at this show. Da 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 da. I'll prep you. I'll coach you. What's your opinion of this? I'd love to know, as you've come from way back in the day, like myself, like my previous guests, like Paul Meldrum, both had an opinion on this. I'd love to hear your opinion of, obviously the sport, the business side of it is unregulated. Anyone with a cereal box qualification can just jump online, do a load of marketing, and I'm a top salesperson. I can PT you, I can coach you, I can guide you to the Olympia.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of obviously there's always going to be a lot of people that jump into that realm no matter what they do. There's plenty of, people that maybe do online training for 6 months and they're like, then they become online business coach gurus that try to coach everybody else. Or same thing with, coaching, other competitors. Maybe they did one or two competitions themselves and they have no clue. Maybe they have like, really good genetics, or maybe they took a bunch of gear or something like that and it helped them, place well, but they don't know all the ins and outs that you get from years and years and years of trial and error and, working with hundreds of clients that, we had to go through. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you're always going to have those type of people, but uh, what I noticed is that a lot of those people end up dropping off. And it's because, they get called out and, their clients can tell that they're inexperienced. Whereas, if you stay with it long term, you're always going to rise to the top, man, no matter what. So that's
Yeah.
why you're a stud and you get it done too.
The cream of the crop, I say, the cream always
Yeah.
rises. So, do you feel like, obviously, with modern coaching, i.e., shall we say, bro science versus the science backed stuff? Do you follow a specific yourself, or are you a bit of a? I use a bit of science backed stuff and a lot of bro science that I've experienced over the years.
Yeah, I mean, I've done so much research over my time. Back in the day when I was competing, and even before I was competing, I literally read everything that I could read to try to get just the knowledge base
Mm.
to get me to where I was. Like whether it was, the role of glucose in the body with different type of carbohydrates and protein synthesis and all that kind of stuff. Like I read that stuff because I wanted to know one for myself, and then also so I can coach, clients more effectively as well. And I think a lot of people, and this would make me laugh because I would, hear other coaches that I could tell didn't have the educational background talking all that bro science in there, and they're just like, oh yeah, da, da, da. And it's just like it makes me cringe when people are uneducated and they just say, simple things that don't make any sense to me. Um, about different, whether it's training philosophies, or whether it's nutritional type things in there too. So I'm a big fan of actually getting the research in there, but also putting in the work and seeing like the real live examples of how it works with your clients, how it works with yourselves. I tried it on myself. Like if I would go over philosophies, because obviously every body,
Yeah,
responds differently to different ways of nutrition and training.
was
I
I was
tried
just
that
about to
myself
say,
to see how my body would respond.
yeah, yeah,
You know?
I totally agree with you. I was just about to say, you sort of, what might work for you won't work for me.
Hmm.
Might work for one client won't work for another client, and this is
Correct.
where I find these cookie cutters of nowadays of like, I'm going to sell you a package. It's going to be like $200, da 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 da. And it's the same as the next person around the corner. And there's the next person around that corner and that corner. And then it just gives the industry a bad name. But
Yeah.
like I say, it's what works for you might not work for me. Um, do you, with your online clients and your coaching clients, as in your coaches, do you go over with your clients and your coaches like certain aspects of going through this sort of thing, or do you just like leave it down to them and their choices, or is that a case of you go through it with them?
No, it all depends upon what exactly, you're framing to. But I like to take a little bit more of a customized approach where when we try and one thing with a particular client, if their body doesn't respond, then we're gonna tweak and we're gonna make adjustments. It's not like, hey, this is the only way to do it. Keto is the only way to freaking get shredded, or this is the only way to go. Like, you got to be able to be flexible. That's why having the educational background on multiple different philosophies, right? Because there's more than one way to skin a cat, is going to help you. That's why the coaches that really know their shit are going to stand out and be able to help more and more
Yeah,
people in there too, because they're able to make the right adjustments. Whereas the other coaches, they get flustered, they don't know what to do, and they blame it on the client, and just then the client drops off. They get a bad name.
off and runs off. Definitely, definitely. So staying on the role of the business side of it, what three things would you say are the things that you need to look for a successful coach?
So the first
In your
thing I would
opinion,
always
obviously, I don't know if you've ever worked with a coach or if you've just coached yourself or if you're just giving that advice out to people to look for a coach.
Mhm. So with the coach, first and foremost is you got to make sure that they have plenty of social proof, meaning that they've worked with other clients that are like you, right? So if you're a particular type of, person that has, it's an endomorph or whatever, and you want to compete, like whatever the situation is, you want to be able to see, the social proof. You want to be able to see the results. You want to be able to see the testimonials in there. If they can't showcase testimonials or referrals or, any of that kind of stuff, that's the biggest red flag of anything. So number one, obviously, is you got to be social proof. Number two is you have to be able to have a connection with your coach, I believe, because your personalities have to vibe. Because if you and your coach like are just like headbutting each other, it's not going to be a good situation, because then obviously they can have good intentions, but if they're a military sergeant and you don't like that type of a coach, and you like somebody that's going to be a little bit more supportive, or vice versa, like maybe you need that type of person, they're not that type of person, then it's not going to get the best out of you. You're not going to get your maximum value out of your coach. So that's going to be number two. And then number three is obviously going to be, are they flexible? What's their knowledge base? Like, how long have they been doing it? What are their years? What are their accolades and so forth? So you got to make sure that the person like really, really knows their stuff. If they're brand new to coaching, but maybe they have, a few testimonials, then you might want to put that off for somebody that's been in the game a little bit longer in there too. So those would be kind of like my top three things to look for as you're picking out your coach.
Cool. I like this advice. Definitely. Definitely. So obviously I tried to pick out some myths towards the end of the podcast, but obviously we're flying with time, we're going through everything really quickly because you're great at answering all this stuff. I've got a few myths though, right? So these like myths, like lengths of workouts. What would you say is an optimal length of a workout?
I like 45 to 60 minutes because you can put in a heck of a lot of high intensity. And it also depends upon what you're training for. But let's just say typical bodybuilding split,
Yeah,
right? Um, that way you can maximize your intensity, and also you blunt your cortisol. You don't have too much cortisol that starts being released, because after 45 to 60 minutes, depending upon your intensity level, that can start to increase, where then it has a negative effect on you. So if you have, 2, 3 hour grueling sessions, then, for hour long sessions, then that's going to be hurtful. That's why it's better to break it up into multiple workouts per day as opposed to doing a 3 hour long, workout in there too.
You're not a
So,
Kai Green fan then of his 3 hour workouts then?
I mean, hey, it works for him and he's got some crazy genetics. But here's the thing is you guys don't know what type of genetics some people have that can handle that load. And
Mhm.
also how much stuff is he taking? Like, come on, come on.
Come on, he does look like Mr. Strong from Mr. Men books. That's all I can remember when he was who's the company he had his red hoodie with the beef protein. I can't remember.
Oh, I remember them. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember
you
that.
remember who I mean? So
Yeah.
he was an absolute monster. It's 2013 Body Power in the UK. And Branch Warren walked past me and nearly knocked me out. And then Rolly was like this close. We were literally walking like this, and it was like gridded walkways. And my mate just pulled me back because Rolly was literally going to just shoulder block my face off me. It was so funny. We saw Kai Green, and no joke, sat there, and all I saw is this red square, just like
Yeah.
this. I couldn't believe it. Mr. Mick. I was like, yeah. But hour and a half, what like warm up? I'm like, pardon? Hour and a half warm up? No, sorry, can't do that.
Yeah.
That's my workout gone.
Yeah. Plus, most people don't have that time in their schedule. They don't have it where they can make it a full-time job just to work out and eat. That's all he does.
Oh, man, nah.
So,
So obviously everyone's different, and every coach is different. But again, myths on this one. Your top three supplements you give your clients and you've done over the years yourself. Top
top
three.
three would be,
Top three.
yeah, I would definitely say protein powder because it's really hard to get enough protein through your diet alone.
Mhm.
For a lot of people, just depending upon the people that can't meal prep or don't have time to meal prep, or they just need to get that extra. So it'd
Mhm.
either be a protein shake or meal replacement. Number two would be multivitamin. A lot of people don't get their veggies and fruits and stuff, and they get, a lot of processed food and so forth. So I would just say multivitamin to just be kind of like that extra safety net. And number three, what
Lots,
this is what I
lots of
like. My number three is amino energy because obviously, sipping on your aminos, throughout your workout, having that extra energy kick, and it's, the caffeine sources in there too, so it's alert, but it's not like a crazy pre-workout, and you can kind of adjust the
no,
amount of scoops in
no
there too.
beta alanine in there at like 350 milligrams, right?
No, there is a little beta alanine in there, but it's not something where you start to feel your face like all lighting on fire and pins and needles in there and stuff. So those would be my top three because a lot of people also need that little extra kick, especially if they don't drink coffee or anything like that. So to,
Definitely,
kind of wake them up.
definitely. I'm one of those because I'm not a coffee boy. So yeah, no, this varies. Like I've had other coaches on and other it's all I think the only one which stays in there on everyone's top three has got to be protein, but that's quite funny. Now, obviously, this is a sensitive subject on a lot of people and it's individuals. But PEDs, are they classed as cheating in professional sport, or are they taking their genetics beyond the level that is required to be the best?
So that's a great question. Depending upon the sport. So obviously, the more that you can be natural, that's like where you can really see their true potential, I should say, like without having anything else out there. The thing that I don't like about PEDs, and yes, it helps with their performance, it helps with their size, with their strength, and all those other things they can build. But then it's like, where do you stop? Like they can just keep going and like out PED somebody as opposed to outwork somebody. That's the thing that I don't like in there. I'm not so much like if it was just like a little bit just to kind of give somebody a kick or help them out recover faster,
Uh,
so that way they can optimize. that's a different realm. But when people just like blow it out of proportion, that's why bodybuilding, that's like a whole nother world. Like in order to be the best bodybuilder, but for them, that's what they're trying to do is they're trying to, you know, get themselves to that super crazy level. And when you see natural bodybuilding, it's like a whole different world. And I even know a lot of natural bodybuilders that aren't even really natural. Some of the ones that actually won the top. I'm like, why are you competing in natural bodybuilding if you're
So
freaking taking stuff?
okay, so we'll veer off that a little bit. Okay, but another great question I think is, what would you class as natty then?
So I would suggest creatine is fine. All those kind of things are fine. So anything that's going to play a role in hormonal advantageous realms, right? So I know you can say, hey, if you have too much caffeine, it could be in there. Like I'm cool with them taking caffeine if they want. You know, I'm not
Huh?
in there. But like when you start to get into things that boost testosterone, things that do anything that helps build muscle or increase that extra sports performance, that's what I would say is kind of that extra key thing. Where obviously, creatine is perfectly, it's found
Well,
in red
you get
meat.
it in
So it's
red
like,
meat, so
yeah,
it's something you can actually eat yourself, right? Okay,
yeah.
but say for instance, like obviously things like Shilajit is supposed to increase testosterone production to a degree, but it's a natural thing. Would you class that as natural in a world of natties, or would you class that as extra help?
If it's something that's like a natural plant extract, then that I would kind of be like, okay, that's cool. And here's the thing, because some different things that boost your testosterone do it from helping or from an external source where it shuts down your natural levels,
Yep.
right? And then it's like a whole external source. And then there's other ones like tribulus and so
Yep.
forth that like they'll help stimulate your luteinizing hormone just so your body naturally can kind of like be optimized with its mount or ZMA, just like little things that help out. So those I think are fine. Where it's the ones that are like external with if it's going to shut down your natural because it's like too much of the other thing,
Mhm.
then that would be kind of like where I would say, hey, that's kind of on that line right there.
That's cool. That's cool. So I've got a question for you, and you being an American, obviously, Mike O'Hearn, don't you?
I do. Yeah.
I don't know if you know him personally, but would you class him as natty? You know, I'm not gonna. You don't want to answer this. I don't think you will. Do you class him as natty, or do you class him as like suspect?
Um, I to tell you the truth, I've met him a few occasions, but I don't know him. Like we're not like call each other, like we're not on that level or anything like that. From looking at him, I think, I would have to say, dude, that dude's on some serious, like taking some gear. But I know that he claims to be natural. And the only thing I would say is like, hey, I'm not one to be like, hey, no, you are taking gear if you're not. I mean, there's always that Liver King kind of thing that kind of
Yeah,
up in his
yeah, yeah,
face.
man. Like
Um,
I'm only asking because he's from your neck of the woods, right?
yeah,
Over in America.
yep,
You've probably met him at an expo or something up
yep,
close. There is that big question mark. It's same as like Liver King, right? That was blatantly obvious from like just look at the vascularity of the guy. There's no way someone is that like that lugging massive like logs around for fun and you're not come on. And you're like, what? Less than 5% body fat? Come on. We're not all stupid.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? No one's just ripping liver off out of a cow and like going, yeah, I'm eating it, and oh yeah, next minute I'm so anabolic, I'm walking around at less than 5% body fat with like 200-pound log on my shoulder. Come on.
yeah.
So that's why I ask about Mike because a lot of people won't know who he is. A lot of older people will know who he is, but from just my personal like, I'm like, okay. Some people call him Natty. Some people, and he is in his what 50s.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, from a visual standpoint, from seeing him, I would think, man, this dude, he's got an insane physique. So he looks fantastic. Like, dude is shredded, full muscle bellies. Like he was American Gladiators. If you guys haven't already seen him, he's been on countless covers of magazines and so forth.
Yeah.
Dude is big and he's a strong dude. So he's not just like one of those guys that looks the part. Like that dude is strong. So I think this is what I would assume in my head, not to say he is this or he is
No,
that.
no, no, no,
I would
no.
assume the majority of his career, I think he was pretty much natural. Then I think, when he got probably in his 40, he probably started taking tests and maybe some growth and stuff like that just to kind of like keep him at an edge. I don't think he's doing crazy amounts of trend and all that kind of stuff. I just think he's a naturally gifted dude that has like a really good work ethic. He probably preps and has a chef that like makes him all his meals and all that stuff. The dude makes, good money. And I probably would assume he's at least taking test and growth at a bare minimum.
Yeah, I see. And I've got no qualms against that sort of thing. And I'm not here
Yeah.
to, pull my small podcast out and blow it up in the middle of nowhere, right? By asking a question about a celebrity like bodybuilder, men's physique, whatever you want to call him. Probably the most. I think he's the most photographed front page, like front covered of men's health, men's fitness in the world or something
Yeah.
like that. There's some accolade of that stature,
Yeah.
right? You know, when you're like that, you don't like you're still like I say, I think he's like 54, something like that, and he's in fantastic shape. And you and I,
Yeah.
and anyone who's got an idea of like what life is like in your 40s pluses, it's not as easy as it used to be when you're in your 20s and your early 30s.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? You know that,
Yeah.
I know that. That's how it is. But so yeah, that's some of those ideas. But getting back to these like myths, I think the next biggest this is one of the biggest ones I'm coming up against at this moment in time is the weight loss injection pens. So Ozempic, Monjaro, GLP-1s. What's your opinion on these? And would you, if you had, say, I don't know, say a guy or a girl, 300 pounds, say, in your terms, come to you, say, look, I want to drop 100 pounds within 6 months. Would you use this within your repertoire, or are you dead against all of this?
It's not so much that I'm against it, but I always try to go without doing any of that stuff because so many people just have shitty habits and they're thinking that they're doing things correct when they're not. They're not measuring their food. They think they're taking in 1,500 calories and they're taking in 3,000 calories. And they're, say that they're getting in 8,000 steps a day and they're getting, 800 steps a day. Like literally, they're just overestimating their caloric expenditure and they're underestimating, how many calories they take in. And just over time, they blew up. Now, there is going to be people with thyroid issues and hormonal issues and things that lead to,
Diabetes.
excess weight gain and, obesity. But if you're talking about like morbid obesity, 300, 400 pounds, that kind of thing in there too, I would always probably do whatever possible without using anything first to make sure you've exhausted everything, right? Getting them on nutrition, getting them moving, cardio, strength training, all those things in there. Then if they're still stuck and they're not cheating, but they're just like stuck, then you know that there's something wrong. And obviously you got to have their blood work checked and all those things. But that would be the only time I would like say it might be something you need to explore.
Again, do you think nowadays, going back to my first comments or one of my first comments in this podcast, is people are looking for the easy way out?
Yeah, they are looking for the easy way out. There's people that are, probably, you know, 200 pounds, 20% body fat, wanting to take all these different things just to get shredded as opposed to using it for what it's meant for with like more of the obesity things in there too. And what I don't think a lot of people realize is like what happens when you stop
Mm.
taking those things.
I've got a
So,
perfect client at the moment. She's just actually come on board. She's been through 2 cycles of Monjaro, and she's now, let me think in pounds. She's only she's 100 and what 63 centimeters high, and she's at least she's like two 240, 250 pounds. You know what I mean?
so at least, yeah, 110 kilos, something like that.
Yeah. Oh no, she's even yeah, 106 kilos. Sorry, yeah, bang on
Yeah.
106. That's mad. Yeah,
Yeah.
163 centimeters.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But yeah,
So,
2 rounds of that, and just yeah, lost a load of weight, lost a load of muscle, and then suddenly, oh yeah, it's all right. I'll go back to eating what I want to eat.
yeah, here's the thing that people don't realize is that also whenever you starve yourself and you put yourself in a like highly starvation type diet, like, whether you're inhibiting your hunger and so forth, and you lose your muscle. Yes, you lose weight, but your muscle is going to be what's feeding your metabolism. Your muscle is going to be what keeps those extra calories burning. So if your natural resting metabolic rate is, 1500 or 1200, whatever it is, it's going to go down. So then when you go back to eating the same thing after, you don't have that muscle burning that extra tissue. So you gain even more fat back
Yeah, yeah,
as you do it.
yeah.
So,
It's like it goes, but it's harder to lose it than it is to gain it, and it comes back like a Ferrari. I say you lose it like a cart horse, and you gain it like a Ferrari. You know what I mean? It's
yes.
mad, but hey ho. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this. Thanks very much for this time of yours. Um, I'm probably gonna like ask a couple more questions and then let you have your day, your rest of your day to yourself. But I really appreciate your time on here. Um, with regards to obviously um these myths, do you feel that people need to go out and spend a bucket load of money on supplements to gain the body that they are trying to get?
I don't think so. Even though I used to back in the day, like I would work and literally spend like $500 a month on supplements or 300. It was like ridiculous. And then I got sponsored with Optima and they were sending me like that much for free. And I was like, gosh, oh my gosh. But no, I don't think you have to. Like there's certain things that you can get in your diet that you're not going to need to have a ton of supplementation with it. It also depends upon your lifestyle. Like, can you prep meals or do you need to have, a meal replacement or protein shakes in there? Do you, want to go and get, extra amino energy and stuff where you don't need that? You can have coffee and you can like literally just pick up in there. So there's ways that you can avoid taking, a bunch of supplements and keeping it very minimal in there too. If you're, um, getting all your fruits and vegetables and you're making smoothies and you're doing some cool stuff, then, yes. But I would say, people always want the quick fix. People always want the magic pill. There's so much marketing out there around supplementation because obviously it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And so they're going to make it seem like, hey, you need this in order to get this type of result. But in reality, you don't. Like, I mean, obviously there's certain things that will help you and things that will make it easier for you a little bit, but I don't think you need to go crazy with supplements.
So, okay, staying on the sort of supplement route, okay, we'll still stay on PEDs. Do you feel that you need to get jacked? Do you still need to train as hard, or if not harder? And do you need to still diet, or do you feel like you can get jacked on shit if you're taking gear?
Well, with gear, obviously, it's going to speed up the process. So if it would normally take you 2 years to pack on 10 pounds of muscle, you're going to be able to do it in like,
Yeah.
a much shorter time. But it's going to also be short lived. So when you get off your gear, you're going to lose a lot of what you put on. Not to say you will lose everything, but you will lose a lot of it in there too. But in order to optimize anything, you should be eating clean and feeding your body the right type of macronutrients and right type of calories. if you're feeding your body a bunch of crap and just relying on, a bunch of, you know, PEDs to help you, you know, gain muscle and strength and all that stuff, like you're not gonna be a healthy version of yourself. You may look like big and bulky and strong, but on the inside, you're not gonna be doing as good. I mean, how many bodybuilders die because they're freaking, they have all these cardiovascular problems and probably, and they were pounding like hamburgers and hamburgers and hamburgers as like, their ways to be able to gain weight. And I mean, you would hear these horror stories about, these big old milkshakes just filled with fat and sugar and all those kind of things, and they're just pounding them throughout the day. And like that can't be healthy. But obviously, if you're taking certain things that speed up your metabolism, that add the muscle growth, it's going to make it easier to be able to stay lean. Whereas, I think if you feed your body the right type of fuels, you really learn your body in and out, like
Yeah.
finding out, what type of macros work really well, finding out like that calorie range where, hey, if you dip it down a little bit, you're going to start to lose some body fat, but you can still maintain your strength. Like you're going to find those fine lines where if you dip it down too much, you get weak, but you keep it right here and you're able to like stay nice and tight, and then if you come up, you start to get that, kind of like puffy look, you start to lose some of that stuff, and you'll find those little lines in there too. And I think those people that are natural and do natural for as long as they can, are the ones that usually do the best overall because you
Cool.
learn your body.
Yeah, it's I 100% agree on all of that, what you've just said. Right. Last question for you, mate. This is a real big one because I think a lot of people, even like, forget just the bodybuilding aspect of this. I think this applies to just normal run-of-the-mill gym pop people. Is if you could give the advice of people who are looking for this magic pill, this magic workout, this magic PT, this magic coach, what three behaviors would you suggest people really work on themselves to actually turn themselves around to being the best version of themselves?
It's gonna be it's not so much of like a behavior, but it's getting comfortable doing boring shit, to be completely transparent. Like you have to get comfortable where you're eating, whether it's 5 times a day and you're eating, blend, like simple foods, like you're getting your protein content and it's this much protein and you have this much carbs, and you just have to get used to that. And there's not going to be a magic formula where it's like, oh my gosh, like this is what it takes. It takes like a lot of time and a lot of dedication doing the boring things for a sustained amount of time. Those are the people that can do that, are the ones that end up doing freaking amazing. It's the ones that are always getting burnout after a month if they don't, if they're not noticing huge results and all this stuff. Motivation is temporary, right? Your habits have to be what's going to carry you through. So if you have the type of mindset where, hey, even when you don't feel like it, you just have to do it. You have to meal prep. You have to go to the gym, right? Do you not brush your teeth for 2 weeks because you don't feel like brushing your teeth? No, you brush your freaking teeth. It's
Exactly.
the same thing with if you have a goal of getting a certain physique, is like you go to the gym, you periodize your workouts. You're not going to always be doing the same thing, all the time too. It's like you have to challenge yourself. You have to make it fun. You have to do progressive overload. You have to have deload sessions. You have to do all the things where you're shocking your body, but then also feeding the body, the nutrients, and just getting consistent over time. And you will just notice that this is what it takes. It's the same thing with having a business, right? You have to do the boring
Oh,
things.
mate.
Like everybody's wanting that magic thing that they have to do for their business where they turn into a millionaire. But let me get clear, like, yes, there's certain things that can, ramp up, but really you have to get comfortable with, content, creating connections, having conversations, booking calls, and then working on your conversion process. It's the same thing with your body. You have to work on the simple things, adequate protein, enough carbohydrates for your energy, like just breaking it all down and being consistent with it. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, that answers the question. It's just I like asking that question because, like I say, a lot of people. I've got a few clients like it who literally come check-in day, if it's half a pound, it's like the end of the world. It's like World War freaking five. Oh my God, I've only lost half a pound. Why isn't it like what? What is this expectation in your head? Is it what you think you're magically going to lose 5 pounds every week? No, you're not going to. Slow and steady wins the race.
Yes.
You know,
Yep.
be comfortable at being uncomfortable. If you're trying to gain muscle, you're going to get into a state of where you're going to feel a bit soft and chubby, not fat and overweight, but a little bit chubby. Got to be comfortable at being uncomfortable. So that's where I'm at on that one. But Tobias, thanks very much for this podcast, mate. It's been absolutely fantastic having you on and hearing about your opinions of bodybuilding, how it was becoming a pro, your business side of things. And guys, if you are thinking about working with a business coach, look this guy up. Honestly, fantastic guy to work with. Knowledge is unbelievable. I'll have all your links in the information at the bottom on YouTube. And yes, again, thanks very much, Tobias. Really appreciate your time, and hopefully maybe another one in the future.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Chris. I had a great time, man. This was cool.
Thanks very much.